Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to the We Are Careers show. So we are now here on Series 9. So if you're joining us again, welcome back. Great to have you back on the show. If you've been here since the very beginning, loyalty bonuses, coffees all round. And if you're joining us for the first time, this is the We Are Careers show. So this is a fortnightly CPD snippet for careers professionals around the world, where every fortnight we pick up a big topic that's currently impacting the sector and we delve into it with some fantastic guests who you will see on the screen with us right now. If you're joining for the first time, just a reminder, my name is Chris Webb. I'm a higher education careers professional and member of the CDI, and I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host, meet Sabiha. So, Sabiha, how are you doing? Can't believe it's Series 9. Are you having a good week?
Oh my God, I know, Series 9. How did we get to this point? I'm so excited, and I would just want to say a really warm welcome. I can't believe today's, we have snagged ourselves two really amazing, fabulous guests today that I can't wait to introduce very shortly to our viewers today. And a really exciting topic that we're going to be talking about, which is why does career development for social mobility matter? And for those of you that don't know me, I'm known as Meet Sabiha. I work with international professionals, helping them get unstuck and get back into career flow without the stress. And I also happen to be the creator of the I Am Thriving Career Coaching Program, where I work with international coaches to help their clients create even more powerful transformation without wasting time and resource on tools that don't work. Now, as always, we love hearing from you. Yes, you, the viewers that are watching live right now, or perhaps you're watching us on the replay. We love hearing from you. We love you engaging with us. So if you have questions for our guests today, as I said, the topic is why does career development for social mobility matter? Maybe you're pondering, you're thinking, well, what does that mean? What's that all about? Pop a question in the comments on whatever platform that you're watching and join into the conversation. Now, we're going to be celebrating, as we like to do at the beginning of the show, our careers cheers. So, Chris, who and what organisation are we celebrating in today's show?
Thanks, Sabiha. We've got a few different ones to celebrate. So as always, there's lots and lots of great folks across the kind of career sector that are worthy of celebration. And of course, we're always really keen to have you tell us, are there kind of any individuals, groups or organisations that you'd like to nominate? So it's just another plea. If there is somebody, make their fortnight and let us know before the next show and we can give them a proper shout out. So our first careers cheers, we're kind of coming back to it. We come back to it every series because we're really keen to just encourage people to share those stories. It's just another plug for our careers impact hashtag from the CDI. So again, this is all about sharing inspirational stories, how you might have supported clients or organizations with your career development work. We've seen some brilliant examples on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter, sort of over the last series that we shared. So please do keep those coming. Or alternatively, not just using the careers impact hashtag, but possibly also using the so much more than talking about jobs hashtag as well, which again, you may have seen the campaign in February. You may see a lot more careers professionals now using that on the bottom of posts. So do check those hashtags out. Do use them if you're sharing inspirational stories. So that's our number one. Our number two this week is a bit of a shout out to all of our kind of careers colleagues who've recently been giving evidence at all-party parliamentary group hearings and other events down in Westminster for really kind of representing the profession. So we've had David Morgan, who was at the Westminster Insights event into Next Steps for Careers Guidance. We had, for example, John Ambrose, who was at the Youth Employment and Skills APPG, Helen Atkinson, who represented the International Students APPG on behalf of AGCAS recently. So we've got loads of careers colleagues really stepping up and representing the profession down in Westminster, which is really good to hear. And our final careers cheers is, again, just a massive shout out to all of the nominees who've been shortlisted for this year's UK Career Development Awards ceremony taking place in June. So the full shortlist is now available on the CDI website. You can check it out there via the link on screen. We're not going to read them all out because there's too many, but just a massive cheers to everyone that either put themselves forward in the first place, and of course all of those who've been shortlisted. Very best of luck for the ceremony in June. And those are our careers cheers for the week.
Yay. Oh my God, some great picks, Chris, some great picks. And if you're listening and you're watching right now and you're thinking, hang on a second, I've got a great story, I've got a great careers cheers, then please, as Chris mentioned, join into the conversation. And speaking of joining into the conversation, let's bring in some of the viewers. So we've got Catherine Jenick saying, welcome back, Chris and Sabiha. We've missed you. We've missed you too. We've missed our viewers as well. We've got another Facebook user saying, great to see you again. Congratulations on Series 9. And already people are noticing we've got Lorna and Rosemary, which I'm going to be coming to right now. So that we can kickstart and get into the show. Series 9, seriously, lovely to have you both live again. 2 cracking guests, 2 best wishes from sunny Wales. Looking forward to the show, team. Lucy there. And then we've got great hashtag career shares for those wonderful professionals raising the profile of the career development work at its best. So let's jump on in. So Lorna, let's head on over to you first. Now, your role at the BBC, for those that don't know you, is responsible for developing and delivering the BBC's career development and progression strategy with an emphasis on career mobility, which is the kind of theme of today's topic, and inclusion. So can you tell us a little bit about this and any recent success stories you and your team have achieved? That question's for you, Lorna.
Thank you. Great to be here, and great to see everybody who's joined today. So I guess this work on careers at the BBC has probably only been going in earnest for the last couple of years. You know, careers as a discipline on its own, separate from talent and recruitment and formal learning and development. And the ultimate aim is under the banner of our work to make the BBC a great place to work, which I guess is what all big organisations want to do. But I think we know that people having fulfilled, varied careers is a really key element of what makes somewhere a great place to work. And I guess we've been working in kind of 3 areas. We work with individuals around, you know, how can all of us have agency around our own career, take responsibility, be curious, take opportunities. We work with managers and leaders to help leaders to think, you know, if you're managing a team, you don't own those people. And actually part of your job is to encourage them to move, grow, stretch, come in and out of the team and have great conversations about careers. And then we work at a kind of strategic level, thinking about the organisation generally. How can we make the BBC somewhere where careers and career mobility is enabled by all our processes and practices and all the things that we do. And if I've got time to say one thing we're proud of, I guess there's loads over the last while, but we have launched this quite innovative, we think, career scheme called 80/20, which we piloted and now run generally. And that's where people can spend 20% of their week for 3 to 6 months working in another team or department. So it almost allows people to stay in the organisation but have a kind of portfolio career and dip their toe in another career water without having to make that big move. And actually through our kind of career schemes, one of the things people have been doing last week, one of our career schemes, we had about 220 colleagues working on the Eurovision Song Contest as a way just to give people that kind of money can't buy career experiences. So those are some of the things that'd be great to get into today.
Oh my God, Lorna, you are making me so jealous. Is anybody else getting jealous and thinking about starting a career at the BBC?
Come.
Honestly, because I'm just hearing you. I mean, I love so many of the things. And how about you, viewers? Is what Lorna's sharing with us today resonating with you? I love that 80/20 scheme. And, you know, perhaps maybe you yourself currently right now as a career professional, there you go, love that. I know, isn't that such a great concept? And it may well be that you're listening as a viewer right now and you're thinking, I only work for a small organisation. What would that look like? Today is about inspiring, learning from Rosemary, Lorna, and yourselves, the viewers, of how we can apply this to our own individual sort of kind of careers, but also to our organisations, regardless of the size of that, whatever that organisation may be that you're currently working with. And I think, Lorna, what you said about, you know, taking personal responsibility for your career and sort of kind of being curious is such a valuable mindset to have when it comes to career growth. And that brings me on to Rosemary. So Rosemary, you are obviously one of the directors at the Career Innovation Company. What does that involve, and what are some of the key projects that you have worked with with our fellow guest today, Lorna, but also other projects that you're currently working, that you and your team are working on?
Sure, yeah, and working with the BBC is fantastic, as you can imagine. No, but the work that we do is two-sided. We do a lot of work with organisations. I think we're often seen as a bit of a think partner on careers. So we're helping businesses like the BBC think more systemically about actually all the things that, as Lorna mentioned, that impact on people's career experience. And this is relevant to the topic today because if you're trying to increase social mobility, there are structural barriers that get in the way of this in organizations. So what can be done to impact on that? So we do spend quite a lot of time with organizations thinking about that, but then also creating some of the great learning experiences, the career development experiences, as Lorna mentioned, that reach employees and managers. And that's all, I think that's a bit about equipping people to navigate that world they're in, but also for people leaders to help them play their part and enable growth, enable movement. And one of the big things that I think you've been working on, Lorna, is getting managers to think more openly about allowing people to move within and across and take a risk on people coming into a new role. So yeah, we do a lot of that sort of work with organizations around the world.
It's really interesting, Rosemary. And I think one of the reasons that we wanted to kind of get this episode set up is that a lot of the time we talk about things on a very individual level. But of course, what you're talking about there is almost career professional as influencer, as you say, within organizations, across organizations. So really interested to kind of dig into that in a little bit more detail. So I guess really our kind of first question is around that idea of the topic of social mobility and how do you kind of give career development support that is inclusive and kind of promotes social mobility? And you've mentioned a couple of examples there, but I think if we can kind of come back to that as a question, that would be really useful. So Lorna, perhaps if we can kind of bring you back in first, if that's okay. Yeah, how do you sort of provide that within kind of your role and within the framework of the BBC in terms of that career development support that is both inclusive and maybe promoting social mobility?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing to say is, again, probably all big organisations think about diversity and inclusion because, it's kind of moral imperative, isn't there? That thing of talent is distributed equally, but opportunity isn't. And so, like all big organisations, we think about that. And then all the research there is as well about innovation and creativity, and actually that more likely to come if you have a organisation that is made up of people from different backgrounds and perspectives. But I would say for the BBC, there's an additional imperative, and that is we're so conscious that they call it the universality of the licence fee, like everybody pays for it. And so it's really, really important then that if everybody pays for it, everybody feels themselves reflected by the stories we tell and the programmes we make, the content we produce. And that, again, it is so crucial that if that's to be true, that your workforce reflects the society in which you operate. It seems obvious, but it's, having that at the forefront of your mind, that we can only do that well as an organisation if our workforce. So that's, I suppose, the why, Chris, before we get on to the what. I think in the what, and I should say here, what I'm reflecting is not just my team's work, but it's a whole ecology of work that goes across a number of departments. So I think one area is thinking just about our brand and, how the BBC is perceived as an employer. And I think, if you did one of those sort of marketing studies and you asked people to describe the BBC as a person, you might hear people use words like posh, and so there has been some for us over time about the way we communicate and do our outreach and connect with people who are thinking about the BBC as a place to come to try and dismantle that notion of a type and to encourage people to think about the skills and experiences they could bring to the BBC. And in practice, that's through a big commitment to early careers and apprenticeships. So we, under the banner of BBC Get In, have apprenticeships and traineeships around production, journalism, leadership, technology that advertise every year. And with those schemes over the last while, we now have a commitment to 25% socioeconomic diversity. I think there's, you can get into the definition of that, but we have tried quite hard to actually be intentional in the way we are about other forms of diversity to make those schemes diverse. And then just a couple other things to call out in the organisation. We have a really active employee network community, of which a recent one that started has been raised. That I think it's I can't actually remember the acronym, but it's a socioeconomic diversity, a social network. So they have really helped to kind of change the internal conversation, not just about people coming in, but actually our culture and how it supports people from different backgrounds. And the last thing I think has been a real emphasis, as Rosemary said, in our recruitment processes and our careers process, to do this thing that we've been talking about of kind of potential over polish. how do you have recruitment processes that actually really home in on skills and attitude and values, rather than looking for a kind of tried and tested experience, which can inadvertently filter out talented individuals. So those are some of the things we've been doing. As I say, it's a whole ecology.
No, that's great, Lorna. I mean, really interesting, as you said, to hear about that kind of benefit to the organisation and benefit to the individual, and trying to kind of find that balance. I mean, Rosemary, kind of coming back to you, obviously, as you said, within your work, you work both with individuals and with a variety of organisations. Do you sort of see similar things in terms of how organisations are tackling, I guess, career development for social mobility, or other kind of trends you've noticed?
I mean, I think the BBC are particularly doing a great job on this, because I think many organisations are looking at diversity, but maybe not looking at the sort of economic diversity, which is an interesting angle. I mean, I'm a good case in point about that. I've always been motivated by social mobility, because coming from a rural working class family myself and going to university for the first time in the family, that's what social mobility brings for people, isn't it? And I think the way that I think we play a good part, and career practitioners might be thinking about this, because as you said, Chris, we tend to think about individuals, and we can do a lot to help individuals, but there's so many barriers that the systemic side of it's really important. So the way we tackle that is things like doing insight work in an organization, because sometimes an organization will say, we're doing this, we're doing a good job on this, but actually when you actually talk to people on the ground through focus groups, you reveal that actually they're not doing a great job on the ground. So sometimes that's quite helpful as a way of surfacing some of the challenges. And targets are really helpful, as Lorna mentioned, because that holds the organisation to account. So I'm seeing more and more organisations putting in targets, trying to meet the targets, but there's still, quite a lot of work to be done, I would say, on this topic. And you just look at the factors and things like the gender pay gap and so on, and other aspects of measures around diversity. So yeah, it's a big topic, but I would just encourage career practitioners to sort of look beyond the individual work and think about, well, how can I influence this in other ways, in schools, and when you see things happening, how can you have an impact there as well?
I'm loving both the questions, and this, it always happens on the show, which is that we end up asking more questions than actually answering, and that's good, because that's what we want. We want the audience, and perhaps maybe you're watching right now and there's questions that are popping up in your mind, and you're thinking, oh, okay, that's something that perhaps maybe Lorna said that they're doing at the BBC, where you think, oh, I could introduce this, and you want to know a bit more sort of kind of practical aspects of how Lorna and her team have done that. Pop that question into the chat. This is the guests are here live with us right now. This is a great, fantastic opportunity for you as the viewer to sort of kind of jump in and join in the conversation. So please do let us know. Or perhaps maybe you're wondering how Rosemary and her team, how did they manage to work with an organisation like the BBC? And perhaps maybe you're aspiring, or maybe you're thinking about some of the things that Rosemary has mentioned around, not just the social mobility, and Rosemary shared her story about how she came from a rural background and how she's mapped out her career pathway. But maybe you're thinking about that for the clients that you serve as a professional career practitioner. And I've just had a comment in earlier just saying, Rosemary has run so many fantastic sessions supporting career professional CPD. I've learned a great deal from them and her. So you've clearly got a fan here, Rosemary, of somebody that is, is aware of your work and is acknowledging your work and seeing what you do. And that I guess, one of the questions that I did have for both of you, and Rosemary, I'll come to you first, and then I'll Lorna, get you to jump in, which is that, viewers are watching right now, they're listening and they're thinking about, okay, I want to apply some of this good practice that I'm hearing both Lorna and Rosemary talk about, so that they can unlock untapped potential in their clients or the communities, regardless of what that community is that they are serving. What would be your sort of top tips, recommendations, Rosemary first, if I come to you first, of how a career professional could do that?
Right. Good question, Sabiha. I think it is actually, looking at what you're observing around you, and I think being clued up is helpful. So data can really be helpful. So if you've actually got some data points at your fingertips about barriers, or that's helpful, I think, to have at your fingertips, I would say. And I think it's also maybe challenging the status quo a little bit sometimes. when you see things going on, or just asking the questions, could you do it differently? Have you thought about this? What about tapping into that? And then with individuals, and we have our own methods we have these 7 career skills that we help individuals put into practice, which is all about enabling them to be the best they can and navigate their way through difficult, environments where they're trying to progress. So I think it's 2 sides to it, really, that you might be thinking about. You can do a lot with individuals, of course, can't you? But it's just looking at the context as well, I would say. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, that's really good about collecting data, as you said, and having those data points, because I think you're right, Rosemary, that sort of kind of knowing where are you starting with, what's sort of kind of the bar that you're starting with, where is it that you want to go on that journey, and what are going to be the points that you're going to measure to let you know that you're kind of making the progress that you want to make. I know something that probably will get sent to me, guaranteed, in a private chat on some social media platform will be, oh, I really loved what, Rosemary and Lorna were talking about, but I'm lacking in confidence. I'm not quite sure, how I go about convincing, whether it's my boss or the organization or individuals, whether it's the client. So how do we tackle that? It's almost kind of like the imposter syndrome of professionals that we as professionals can have, but also our clients, we see in our clients as well. But I don't know if you've got any tips or recommendations on that, of how do you challenge in a sort of kind of compassionate way? Because I know for some people, sort of confrontation is like a no-no, or challenging that status quo. So if you've got anything there, Rosemary, I'll come to you there, and then I'll head over to Lorna.
Well, I guess it comes back to the benefits that Lorna was mentioning earlier for the organisation to think about innovation, the benefits of having a diverse team. There's so many, aren't there? Having a diverse team, different ways of thinking, but also there's a wider benefit, isn't it? More people being economically active is good for society. It's good for, the country as a whole. People not getting to their potential is not good for anyone. And actually having inequalities in the workplace and in society is not a good thing. So I think, thinking about some of those benefits and bringing that forward, and maybe less moaning about it and trying to sort of do something practical.
Be part of the solution, be part of a solution and not the problem. Acknowledge that things aren't great, because in every organization, regardless of the size, there's always going to be challenges, but it's what can we do? And this was something that Lorna said. But before I come to Lorna, Catherine's just jumped in saying, could we do things differently? Always a really important question to ask. Totally agree, Rosemary. Just by even asking that question, isn't it, with our colleagues, with our communities, with our clients that we are serving, can just spark a different part of our brain to think about that situation in a different way. Lorna, I want to bring you into the conversation because you spoke earlier about how the 80-20 idea went down really great with the viewers. They seem to really sort of kind of resonate with that, and obviously you've introduced a lot of schemes. How can other people, other professionals who are watching today, who are perhaps working in a large organisation or maybe working in a smaller organisation or a medium organisation, how can they now apply this so that they can unlock untapped potential in either their sort of kind of organisation, clients and communities that they are serving?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with both the points Rosemary made. So I think data for sure, knowing where you're starting from and where you want to get to, and also that bit of the why. And as I say, we've talked about it for the BBC, that the licence fee and reflecting the audience that pay for you. But I'm always struck when I look at social mobility indexes and you look across the professions, if it's law or media or the police or government education, I think it really matters that people from a range of backgrounds are represented in those professions, because it has a bearing on all kinds of outcomes in society. If people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds don't have their voices heard in those big industries. So I think having that real sense of the why helps to power the activity. The other thing I would say, and I would say this where we are, but I do think the currency of storytelling is a really big one. And socioeconomic diversity is interesting, isn't it? Because unlike other forms of diversity, it's not always visible, you know, the backgrounds that people have come from. So something about really inviting people to tell the stories of where they came from, what's helped them along the way. And I guess the last thing I was thinking about, I was just thinking, you know, whenever we ask people about pivotal helpers in their careers, people point to that sort of thing of mentorship and sponsorship, and I think we kind of all need that. But there's particularly something, if you're coming from a background that might feel like it's further off in an industry, it really helps to have that one or two people who cheerlead you, who speak about you, who open the doors for you. And that could be through formal schemes, but it can also be, you know, just an informal economy of that. And I know for me, those kind of sponsorship roles have been really important in helping me maybe sometimes to almost people seeing in me what I don't see in myself until I get there in terms of my confidence.
They're really important points. I think both what you've said there, Lorna, about kind of the small steps, or, you know, kind of activities, initiatives that people can do. And I guess linking to your point, Rosemary, around challenging the status quo, I think sometimes maybe there's that sense of fatalism, particularly working in a large organisation. Oh, this sort of stuff will never change. It's too difficult to change. And certainly from working in large organisations, sometimes you get that feeling from my experience as well. But I think you're right to say that it's not, you know, it's how can we do some things differently? And it might be that, as you said, Lorna, that storytelling impacts on one stakeholder, and then it's a case of finding those other stakeholders who need to hear that can potentially kind of take that further, and that gradual change, rather than, you know, kind of thinking we have to change this overnight. Because I've certainly sort of experienced that in my career, that almost sense of if we can't make big change straight away, we feel like it's never going to happen. But actually, as you said, there are those kind of, not necessarily even small, but kind of significant initiatives that maybe build up over time, and it starts to change the culture. So I think that, you know, there's both really important points. We are rapidly running out of time. It's been brilliant to have you both on the show. Just before we kind of wrap up and move to news, if people want to find out a little bit more about you, about the work that you do, where's the best place to find you? Rosemary, if I come to you first, how can people find out a bit more about you?
Well, you can obviously link in with me if you're not linked in with me already. I would suggest checking out the Career Innovation website, because we do have quite a lot of useful articles on there for anyone who's interested on some of these topics. And you're very welcome to have a look and, yeah, reach out and connect.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rosemary. And likewise to yourself, Lorna. LinkedIn, good platform to find you on if people want to connect.
Yeah, always really happy to connect, and also to act as a connector into the BBC. It's a big organisation, so, you know, if you're looking for a contact that's not specifically what I'm doing, but it's in recruitment or it's in another area of HR, then yeah, linking in. And I think, Chris, you already put the link up to the Get In site where all the information on the entry-level schemes are.
Thank you, Laura. I will put it up again just in case people missed it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both for your time. It's been absolutely brilliant. And we're going to move on to the CDI news in a second. But first, Sabiha, just to kind of come back to you, any final thoughts or comments that have come through from viewers that we want to kind of highlight?
Well, I mean, I think the one comment that's just come through now, and I think it sort of kind of summarised it, which is loved hearing about the work that you both do. Thank you so much for joining today. And that's it, isn't it? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring you, and you, the viewers, matter on this as well, is that because the more people that view, the more we get, you know, I mean, like, it's been fantastic to be able to, and actually this, you know, Lorna today and Rosemary, I mean, those of you that don't know, Rosemary happens to be one of my mentors. So, you know, this is the power right here, right now. And when we were talking about doing a show and what the theme would be, you know, this show actually came about through exactly the top tip that Lorna gave us all. And so I can see that in my own sort of kind of professional career, and we can replicate this good practice, because I'm a firm believer that, you know, and I know so many other career professionals have this mindset as well, is that, you know, we practice what we preach, we apply it into our own careers, and then we sort of kind of show others how to do it as well, effectively and efficiently as well. So thank you to our fantastic two guests for the, you know, for kickstarting Series Nice. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Rosemary. You know, thank you so much for hugely useful. My first CDI event online. Oh, Lorraine, thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you again, and Annette as well. Thank you so much. And that now brings me on to the CDI news. So there are 3 stories that I have picked out for us today, and each of them have got sort of, you know, different sort of kind of nuances. Now, Number one is, you heard us talk about right at the start of the show that there is the UK Career Development Award ceremony coming up, and that will be taking place on Monday, the 26th of June at the Hilton East Midlands Airport Hotel. Now, you probably heard about it if you've been around the CDI community. However, did you know that if you or your organisation wants to take on a more hands-on role and you want to recognise the very best of our profession, and your company wants to align with the innovative thought leadership and progression within the sector, there are still a few opportunities for sponsorship. And Jen Ellen at the CDI, who is the CDI events and commercial manager, would love to hear from you about that. So if this is an opportunity that strikes you, or you think your boss needs to hear about this, or your manager needs to hear about this opportunity, then do let them get in touch with Jen. Then we have news story number 2. The National Careers Leader Conference is fast approaching. It will be taking place this year on Tuesday, the 27th of June at Derby University. There are over 18 workshops now that you can pick from, and ticket prices start from £80. So if you haven't already, the CDI have an exciting lineup of speakers and informative workshops for this year's conference, and the theme sessions throughout the day, as well as sort of kind of various different workshops that you can pick from as well. Again, head on over to the website. There's more details about how you can join if you haven't already done so. And then finally, the third news story that I picked is the CDI Big Listen Survey is out. And once again, this year, the CDI wants to hear from you. They want to sort of kind of explore with you, the members, developing future services and supporting the needs of members such as yourself, looking at focus, where that effort and energy of the team should be put, and what's important to you as a member, but also as well maximising the impact as a professional body. Now, the feedback takes around about 10 to 15 minutes to complete the survey, and the deadline for that is the Monday, the 12th of June by 5 p.m. So please do take part, and the link is on the screen right now. So that's my wrap up for the CDI news. Chris, how about you? What have you chosen for your top 3 stories this week?
That's great. Thanks, Sabiha. Some really, really kind of important, and I guess kind of all quite packed together stuff happening for the CDI. June, a particularly busy month, so really good to hear about all of that. So yeah, just 3 news stories I want to kind of bring to people's attention this week, particularly topical, have just kind of come out recently. The first is around the NICEX Spring Journal 2023. So their latest edition of the journal is live, totally free to access. Some really interesting articles in there. And there's stuff from Rosie Alexander about why we use kind of labour market information, really nice kind of critical approach to, is it actually, or should it actually be such a core part of what we do as careers professionals? Quite an interesting thought-provoking piece from Tristram Hooley around impartiality and what that actually looks like in the careers profession. I think there'll be quite a few response pieces to that. It's really some really interesting stuff that probably hasn't been discussed or debated enough. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Check it out, completely free, and the link is there on the bottom of the screen. Second news story is around Youth Employment UK. So they're launching a new initiative, Youth Employment Week, coming the 3rd to the 7th of July this year. All of the information you need to know can be found on the link below. Again, it's kind of one of those sort of initiatives where there's likely to be quite a lot of promotion in the weeks building up to it. Quite a lot of useful sort of webinars, sessions, resources that might come from it that you may want to use within the settings you work it within, or just want to check out, to see who they've got in terms of kind of speakers or activities or initiatives that come out of it. So do check that out too. And then finally, we couldn't really go through another week without some form of AI related resource or kind of article or something we signposted you to. But this is a really nice kind of bite-sized 4.5-minute YouTube video from Raj Sidhu. Raj is a career consultant at Cambridge University, and it's all about kind of using AI as kind of a collaborative partner for career development work, particularly in terms of writing job applications. What Raj does really nicely is he breaks down the reason why kind of writing, clarifying and connecting in your writing is so important, and actually why you couldn't really use AI just by itself at the moment without going through that individual thought process first. So it's a really nice way, I think, of articulating and socializing how we might use AI as career development professionals. So do check that out if you haven't seen it already. So that is all of our news for this week. It's been an absolute pleasure having the show on, having everybody kind of watching, commenting. Lorna and Rosemary, been absolutely brilliant to have you on the programme. We'd like everyone to join us if you can in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday the 7th of June. usual time of 12 o'clock, where we'll be welcoming Marielle van der Meer and Kira Momi from London Interdisciplinary School. And we're going to be talking all about interdisciplinary careers, about their kind of interdisciplinary problems and methods degrees. So they're not subject specific, and they're all about interdisciplinary problem solving and what career development work looks like when it's in that type of setting. So it should be a really interesting show. But until then, thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for giving up your lunchtimes to be with us. And we hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks, and see you in a fortnight. Take care.